afternoon, everyone. I'd like to introduce to you our speaker today. Our speaker is Gail Hicks. Gail Hicks spent 7 years in the U.S. Air Force. She obtained her BS in electrical engineering from Gonzaga and a Master's of Science in Project Management from the University of Maryland and an MBA from the University of Maryland. Ms. Hicks started her Corps of Engineers career in the Operations Division as an electrical engineer at the Lower Granite Hydroelectric Plant on the Snake River in Walla Walla, Washington. She transferred from operations to project management and then transferred to engineering and construction as a military project manager in the Fort Worth district in 2007. Ms. Hicks is currently working in the Programs and Project Management Division as the project manager for the Fort Worth Central City project. Please welcome Ms. Gail Hicks.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon, especially when I get to talk about this wonderful project that we have over in Fort Worth. I'll start out by giving you a brief history of how the district got involved in this project. It started back in 1922. Fort Worth flooded. There were, is that better? Can you hear me now? Back in 1922, they had 10 people died, 3,000 acres flooded. Then in 1949, I'm sure everybody has seen this picture many, many times, but there was another flood in Fort Worth. This one was much worse. There were thousands that were homeless. So the Corps at this time was invited by the leadership to create a district in the Fort Worth area. So we were established in 1950 after the 2 disastrous floods in the area. We're currently responsible for the water resources development in 2/3 of Texas. Not all the state, I wish we were, but we're not. Responsible for the military design and construction in Texas, Louisiana, and New Mexico. Our geographical area covers 410,000 square miles. Since the inception of our district, we have constructed 25 lakes, 2 major floodways, many local projects, and 2 tunnels for flood damage reduction. The cost of all these projects, if you use $2005, is $3.2 billion, but it's prevented more than $70 billion worth of flood damage. Besides the flood damage, the lakes and the floodways have provided numerous opportunities for millions of visitors, while we furnish about 35% of the state's water supply. Another concern that was presented to the leadership, besides the flood aspect, was the growth that was happening over in Fort Worth. The levee was constructed back in '57, was designed for a 1960s population. However, in Tarrant, Parker, and Wise counties, the population has just exploded since then, and it's caused numerous drainage problems, and it has just added to the issues that we had with the levees. Right now, we're projecting that Fort Worth grew 39% just in the last 10 years. So for the government to get involved in a project, we have to be authorized. I'm sure those of you that have worked with the Corps, worked with the government, all know this, and so some of my presentation may be redundant to you, but in 1965, the River and Harbor Act actually authorized this project for the Corps to start working in these flooded areas. In 2003, the Trinity River Master Plan was created with TRWD, Tarrant Regional Water District, and TRVA, Tarrant Regional Vision Authority. The Energy and Water Development Appropriations Act, or what we call WRDA, then gave us the authority to actually work on the modified, what we're currently doing for the Trinity River Vision Plan as far as the government is concerned. Without that, we wouldn't be able to spend money, the government's money, but they did put a cap on us that the costs were not to exceed $220 million, and that it had to be split 50-50, with the core part being 110 and the sponsors part being $110 million. There's projections, and I get a lot of questions a lot of times about, is it a true 50-50? There are some things that the government doesn't work on. We were not authorized on this project to do any HTRW. So the sponsor has to do any environmental cleanup before we can proceed in a certain area on the project. So that's why it's not, even though it's a 110-110 split, it's not a true 50-50 split. TRVA was then formed to both manage and coordinate the project. This project is very extensive. It covers a lot of issues, a lot of areas, a lot of ground. TRVA is a branch off of the Tarrant Regional Water District. And in 2008, there was a partnership agreement signed with the Army itself and TRWD. This gave us the framework for what we could actually do and what we were going to do with that $220 million. The government will be working on the bypass channel, which is 8,400 square feet long and 300 feet wide. It's a pretty good sized channel. We also have to do 5,250 acre feet of valley storage, and I'll explain why we have to do that in a minute. We're also authorized to work on the Clear Fork Gate and the TRW Gate. There's a third gate, but the Corps is not authorized to work on that one yet. If we maintain our schedule, the whole project will be complete September of 21. The partners that we have, our sponsor is the Tarrant Regional Water District. The portion of that district that I work directly with is TRVA. Our local sponsors, local partners, they're not sponsors, I stand corrected. Partners are the City of Fort Worth, Streams and Valleys, and Tarrant County. And we all work very close together. Other interested parties in this project are the Federal Highway Administration and Texas Department of Transportation. This is the current levee system that we have. And if you'll notice, the buildings are all set way back from the water. When the project got started, TRVA had a lot of public meetings. And one of the things that the public always wanted to know is, why can't we have a waterfront like San Antonio? That was a big deal to the people. They wanted a river walk. They wanted to know, why do the buildings have to we face our back to the river instead of the front to the river? Can't we actually use the river, make it be more friendly to the people? And so they came up with a combined goal that the Corps and the government, our main priority is flood protection. We are in the business to save lives. But we also noticed and note that the people in general like the San Antonio Riverwalk. They like being able to go to the river. They like being able to go swimming and kayaking and have parties in the water. So we have combined goals. Flood protection, the revitalization. I'll show you in a minute that by creating this bypass channel and restoring the level of flood protection back to the limits that we need, we will allow the City of Fort Worth to revitalize certain areas that are right now very underutilized. We also are going to be involved in the ecosystem improvement of the area, and there is recreation associated with this. Currently, the government is not allowed to be a part of the recreation aspect of this, but it is a part of the overall project. So they came up with three main project areas. There is the Trinity Uptown and Central City. Central City is what we are terming what the government can work on in the overall Trinity Uptown Trinity Vision project. The Gateway Park Improvement Plan is a part of the Valley Storage area. And the TRV experience, TRVA was very, very wise, and they pulled together individuals from all over the city, all the different various communities. We have a citizens advisory committee, And it involves every pocket of people in the Fort Worth area. And what they've done is they've taken it and they have created a huge trail and park system. So it's going to be 88 miles of not necessarily just the river and tributaries, but there's all these little pocket parks that we're creating along the way. I don't know if you can see this very well, but this is the overall Central City project map. This is what the government is working on. The yellow areas are all the valley storage areas. The blue is the channel itself. I'm not sure how good that came out. So this is a picture looking from the south back up to, or from the north back down to the south of Fort Worth. The Trinity River is currently in this location. When we get done with the bypass channel, it will do that to the river. When we get this bypass channel built, all the levees that are currently on the inside of that island can then go away. They will not be needed any longer once the bypass channel is in place. That frees up a lot of real estate on the inside of that island for residential use, for commercial use. This is an overview of the channel itself. The yellow line is the edge of the channel. I'm not sure how good that one came out either. But there is the channel. This is an artist rendition of what the channel is going to look like. Back in 2007, 2008, TRWD and the Corps got together and they went to Vancouver and did a model. It was a 1:40 scale of this entire channel. They had to run all the H&H modeling to make sure that everything that we were planning on doing wasn't going to make the floodwaters worse, either upstream or downstream. This is the model that they came up with. If you look on the soft side, though, you'll notice that the artist has put trees on the levee. The government doesn't allow trees on the levee, so the artists take a lot of leeway with what we can and cannot do. But this will give you just an overall impression of what it's going to look like. And if you're standing on the soft side, looking across the channel to the hard side, this is what that will look like. And these are all conceptual at this point. We're still in the final design phases on part of this. So how it will be built, we have quite an extensive sequencing for this project. First come 3 bridges. TxDOT is currently working on getting 3 bridges built. Henderson, Main Street, and White Settlement. These bridges are going to be built in the dry. Part of what the Corps has to do is, as each construction contract is let for the bridges, when their contractor gets in and he'll clear out an area on our hard side, the Corps will then go in and install the piers for the hard wall. Then the bridge contractor will come back in and finish building the bridge. We have to do that, sequence that way, because if we were to do it in a different way, we would actually have to have the city come in and take off part of the bridge in order for us to drill our piers. So it's a sequencing of, they start the bridge, we come in, we do our piers, we get out, and then they come in and finish the bridge. So it's a timing issue. After the bridges get done, then we can start actual construction of the channel. The channel itself is phased in 4 different sections. At the same time that we're building the channel, we'll be building the valley storage. Valley storage is needed with the way that we're building the channel. In order to not disrupt the flows downstream and the flows upstream, we have to have a lot more valley storage area. And the valley storage area is intended to flood. It will flood. We're projecting at the 100-year event that all of these areas that you see will be underwater, that were yellow on that first map. After we get the storm management done, all the valley storage is in place, and the bypass channel is open, then we can work on the isolation gates. And the isolation gates are what is going to keep what is the islands dry. There's also going to be a storm water pumping station on the inside of the top gate that you see. There's going to be a pumping station there as well. In the event that the storm waters on the island flow too much into the channel, we have the ability to pump that water out into the Trinity River. Once the gates get built, then we'll have a dam and a lock. And the lock is needed. There's going to be, in the future, the capability to go from downtown Fort Worth, either on a kayak or a water taxi, all the way to the stockyards and back by water. The interior water feature is, I have it on here, the Corps will not be a participant in this feature. This will be purely sponsored, but it is a part of the overall project. And then this is what the sponsor is projecting as an artist rendition of Trinity Uptown once it gets completely built. So we start with the 3 bridges, and this is a rendition of the bridges that we're currently TxDOT has out. Henderson, we're projecting Henderson to start this year. Maine should start it this fall, and White Settlement should start next year. Now, Valley Storage. Gateway Park is a big area of Valley Storage for us. When we get done with Gateway Park, we're only working on part of it. We are not doing the recreation part of it, but we are restoring the Oxbow part back to its original features. And we are doing some grading. But other than that, the rest of this, what you see, will be all sponsor done. Sponsor had a great idea, and we had to take out, we would have had to take out a bunch of dirt. 350,000 cubic yards of dirt had to be moved. And so what they did in order to save the project money, they went out to the public and said, "Public, we have all this dirt. If you want it, come get it." And this is the result. They cleaned out 350,000 cubic yards of dirt. That is a tremendous cost savings to the project. This is another section of Valley Storage. It's up by Sam Avenue. When this Valley Storage area was completed, the city or the sponsor decided to try and find a business that would start getting people interested in the river. And what they came up with, and what was really interesting, a gentleman came by and said that he wanted to do waterboarding, you know, the surfboarding with the big. And so, you know, you try and think, okay, there's no waves, there's no, yeah, that wouldn't be a good thing. So wakeboarding, correct, stand corrected, it's wakeboarding. So, all right, there you go, my nerves are shot now. So anyway, what they did is they contracted with this gentleman, and he created the little thin, narrow strip that you see is a beginner's learning, and it's just a straight shot. Once you get used to being able to ride on your board, and how you do that is there's a wire that comes around with a handle, and you hang on and it pulls you. So you're skiing without a boat, and it goes all the way around that inside little lake. He built this knowing that if we needed to, it would flood, and so there's nothing in there that can't be replaced. So right now he has a contract to run that business, and you would be surprised. I was shocked. The times that I've gone out there was always a line of people waiting to get out there and get their little, you rent all the equipment there, and there's just a line of people waiting to go around and around and around. It just amazed me, but people really want to use the river. Once we get done, all the blue will then be protected from flooding. It is not currently protected. So there's a lot of homes that in the 100-year event would now be protected. I threw this slide in here for the civil engineers. The Corps is not going to be a part of this part of the project, but it's in order for that little island to work, TRWD has to completely redo the drainage in Uptown. So this, and I'm not sure if you all can see it well enough, but this is their draft. It's not in complete, hasn't been completely designed yet, but this is their draft of what's going to have to change in the stormwater in that island area. So this is, for more information, it's on our website. It's also on the TRV Education Center. They've got a fabulous display, if any of you get a chance to go look at it. They have just been an awesome partner to work with. I can't say enough about their cooperation. It has just been it's been the best sponsor I've had on any project that I've worked on for the government. They've been amazing. Some of the slides that you've seen today are actually, they've allowed me to use their slides. They have an awesome graphics department. So I have to thank them for the use of their slides. Does anybody have any questions?
Did you get the wakeboard?
No. I have not. I haven't gone out there yet to do that. It looks like fun. But I only saw one guy make it all the way around because they've got jumps. They've got all kinds of fancy stuff out there. And so people try to do the jumps and the spins, and I only saw one guy that actually made it all the way around without falling off.
Do they have a lot of developers lined up to start actually building the developments once this is done?
They have some that have made proposals. The way that it's going to be built, the Corps still has a footprint that you cannot build on. Even on the levee side, there's a 200-foot protected zone. They can't build up to 25 feet. Between the 25 and the 200-foot, TRWD has to make sure that any of those foundations for those structures don't impact the flood wall on the hard side. So there's a bunch of criteria that they all have to meet, but they do have businesses that are lining up to start developing as soon as we get things moving. Most of the demolition, if you drive down Main Street, you'll see a lot of the buildings that used to be there aren't there anymore. There's also Coyote Theater that they're installing. If any of you like the old drive-in movies, they've, over next to where the Cats ball field is, they're installing the Coyote Theater, and it's going to be operational for drive-ins for a while.
What percentage of the right-of-way has been acquired?
They have procured, I believe it is 90% of the land that we need to build the entire project. They're working on the rest of the White Settlement areas currently. The White Settlement Bridge area was brought forward in the schedule, and so they're working on getting that area.
What is the sponsor's overall budget?
The sponsor and the Corps are working from two different perspectives. The Corps is living in a 220 world because that's all that we have been authorized by the Army and by Congress to do is a 220 world. The sponsor is working from a 909 world. They are looking at the project as a whole, and it's $909 million. Awesome.
Thank you, Gail, and as a show of our appreciation, we'd like to present you with this gift. It's a Bridges 2013 calendar. It won't get you through the project date of 2021, but hopefully it'll,
Bridges being built.
yeah.